That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The sun hung low over the California desert, casting long shadows across the tarmac at Naval Base Coronado. Dust swirled in lazy eddies from the prop wash of idling helicopters, their rotors chopping the air with a rhythmic thrum that vibrated through the ground. Petty Officer First Class Marcus Hale stood at attention, his boots planted firm on the cracked concrete, the weight of his gear pressing into his shoulders like an old friend. At 28, Hale was a seasoned SEAL handler, his frame lean and scarred from years of insertions and extractions, but it was the dog at his side that drew the eyes of the platoon. Rex, a Belgian Malinois with a coat the color of burnished copper, sat rigid beside him, ears perked forward, black eyes scanning the horizon. The K-9's harness gleamed under the morning light, embroidered with the unit patch, a silent testament to the bond forged in the heat of training ops and real-world patrols. Hale's hand rested lightly on Rex's head, a gesture so subtle it might have gone unnoticed, but it spoke volumes. Trust, earned through countless hours of drills where commands were whispered and obedience was absolute. "Steady, boy," Hale murmured, his voice low, lost in the whine of engines warming up. Master Chief Harlan Graves paced the line of operators, his boots echoing with authority. At 52, Graves was the epitome of the chain of command, square-jawed with a salt and pepper buzz cut and eyes that missed nothing. "Listen up!" he barked, his voice cutting through the rotor noise like a knife. "This is Helo Exfil Sim, standard procedure. Board in pairs, secure gear, eyes on the bird, no deviations. We're testing response times, not your improv skills." The platoon, 8 SEALs and their support, nodded in unison, salutes crisp against the backdrop of the San Diego skyline, fading into haze. Hale felt the familiar pull of routine. It had been this way since Bud S., the grind of PT at dawn, the salt sting of ocean swims, the quiet hours in the kennels where Rex's steady breathing was the only sound that mattered. The dog had joined him 2 years prior after a deployment in the sandbox where Hale's previous partner had been lost to an IED. Rex wasn't just an asset. He was Hale's shadow, detecting threats before the scent even registered, explosives, intruders, the subtle rot of fear in a teammate. The bond was unspoken, built on hand signals and the rarest praise. A pat, a shared meal from Hale's MRE. The order came sharp. "Mount up!" Graves signaled, and the team moved with practiced efficiency. Backpacks thudded against fuselages, rifles slung secure. Hale clipped Rex's lead to his vest, the dog's nails clicking softly on the tarmac as they approached the MH-60 Seahawk. The helicopter's door gaped open, crew chief gesturing them in. Hale stepped forward, his gloved hand on the sill, ready to hoist aboard. But Rex halted, muscles taut under Hale's grip, refusing to budge. A low rumble built in the dog's throat, not a growl, but a warning, deep and insistent. "Easy, Rex," Hale said, tugging gently. The lead held firm. Rex's paws dug into the concrete, eyes fixed on the bird's underbelly. Hale's pulse quickened. In training, hesitation meant malfunction, gear jam, overlooked threat. He glanced at Graves, who was already frowning from across the tarmac. "Hale, secure your asset. We're on the clock." The platoon paused, half-boarded, radios crackling with the crew's all clear. Hale knelt, scanning Rex's posture, tail low, nostrils flaring. The dog wasn't spooked by noise or wind. He'd boarded Blackhawks and sandstorms without flinching. This was different, instinct, pure and unyielding. Hale's mind raced through protocols. K-9 refusal could signal contamination, mechanical fault. But the pre-flight checks were green. Mechanics had signed off an hour ago. To pull the op now meant delay, questions from command, a mark on the team's readiness score. "Petty Officer," Graves called, striding over, his shadow falling across them. "What's the hold-up? Dog's got a problem." Hale stood, meeting his superior's gaze. "Negative, Master Chief. He's just not loading." The words hung awkward in the dry air, the rotor wash whipping Hale's collar against his neck. Around them the team shifted, subtle glances, the weight of expectation. Rex pressed closer to Hale's leg, a warm flank against his calf, as if anchoring him. Graves's eyes narrowed, the lines around them deepening. "Not loading? This isn't a debate, Hale. Get him in or leave him groundside. We don't have time for pets playing stubborn." The word pets landed like grit in Hale's throat. Rex had saved 3 lives on Hale's last rotation, sniffing out a hidden cache before it could turn lethal. But orders were orders. The chain didn't bend for sentiment. Hale's hand tightened on the lead, conscience warring with duty. Delay the sim, and it could flag his eval, question his control, his reliability, push Rex, and risk whatever instinct was screaming in the dog's veins. The crew chief leaned out, helmet mic buzzing. "Birds hot, Chief, we rolling or what?" Graves fixed Hale with a stare that demanded compliance. "Your call, but make it quick. Obedience goes both ways, yours and his." Hale looked down at Rex, the dog's eyes locking onto his, steady and unblinking. In that moment, the desert heat pressed in, the helicopter's hum a relentless pulse. Hale had followed orders that scarred him, buried doubts under mission priority, but this felt like a fracture. Loyalty to the team or to the partner who sensed what no human scan could. He straightened, voice even. "Request permission to run a secondary check, Master Chief. Rex doesn't refuse without reason." Graves paused, the wind tugging at his cap. The platoon watched, silent, the air thick with unspoken tension. For the first time in Hale's career, a routine drill teetered on the edge of defiance. Not his, but the dog's. And the choice to heed it could unravel everything. Graves's jaw tightened, the muscles along his neck flexing like coiled cable under the strain of the moment. The helicopter's engines whined higher, an insistent drone that masked the subtle creak of the tarmac, settling in the heat. He scanned Hale's face, steady, no trace of panic, then dropped his gaze to Rex, who hadn't moved, paws planted as if rooted to the earth. The dog's flanks rose and fell in measured breaths, nostrils still working the air, picking up scents the humans dismissed. Faint hydraulic fluid, the tang of overheated metal, something acrid beneath the rotor wash. "Secondary check?" Graves repeated, his voice a low rumble, edged with impatience. He glanced at the crew chief, who hovered in the doorway, gloved hands gripping the frame. The sim was already slipping past optimal window. Command would log the overrun, and overruns bred scrutiny. "You got 30 seconds, Hale, make it count. And if it's nothing, you're explaining this to the skipper yourself." Hale nodded once, sharp and professional, his hand signaling Rex to hold. "Copy that, Master Chief." He unclipped the lead, letting it coil at his feet, and knelt beside the dog, running gloved fingers along the harness seams. Intact, no chafing or foreign objects. Rex's eyes stayed on the helicopter, unblinking. A low vibration humming from his chest. Hale trusted that instinct. It had pulled them through a night patrol in the Hindu Kush, where Rex had frozen at a trailhead, alerting to a pressure plate none of the sweeps had caught. But here, on home soil, in a controlled op, doubt crept in like fog off the bay. He stood, pulling his multi-tool from his vest, and approached the Seahawk's undercarriage. The crew chief waved him off at first. "Pre-flight's clean, man." But Hale held up a palm, voice calm over the noise. "Just a visual, Chief. Protocol on K-9 alert." He ducked under the tail boom, the shadow cool against his neck, and traced the landing gear struts with his eyes. Nothing obvious, no leaks, no loose panels, but as he shifted, his boots scuffed against a hydraulic line, and he caught it. A faint sheen, Oil residue where it shouldn't be, slick and fresh, his pulse notched up. Not a full breach, but enough to question the sign-off. "Rex," Hale called softly, stepping back. The dog nosed forward immediately, weaving past Hale's leg to sniff the spot. His tail flicked once, then stilled, a soft whine escaping as he pawed at the ground. Hale's gut twisted. Confirmation, silent and sure. He straightened, meeting the crew chief's eyes. "Possible hydraulic seep. Recommend stand down for inspection." The words rippled out, drawing Graves closer. The Master Chief's boots crunched gravel as he joined them, peering at the line Hale indicated. "Mechanics cleared this bird an hour ago. You calling their work into question on a dog's hunch?" "Not a hunch, sir," Hale replied, keeping his tone even, eyes forward. "Rex is trained for anomalies. If it's nothing, we board, but pushing it risks the team." The platoon had dismounted now, gear slung low, forming a loose semicircle at a respectful distance. Whispers cut through the rotor hum, speculation, a few nods toward Rex. Hale felt their eyes like weights, the chain of command bending under this scrutiny. Defiance wasn't in the refusal, it was in the pause, the space Hale carved for reason over haste. Graves rubbed his chin, the stubble rasping under his fingers, and keyed his radio. "Tower, this is Graves. Hold launch on Sierra 1, potential maintenance flag." Static crackled back, affirmative, and the engines throttled down slightly. The sudden quiet amplifying the desert's breath, wind sighing through chain-link fences, the distant bark of another K-9 in the kennels. The maintenance crew arrived minutes later, 2 techs in grease-stained coveralls jogging up with toolkits clanging. They swarmed the undercarriage, flashlights probing, one muttering about torque specs as they traced the line. Hale stood aside with Rex, the dog's head resting against his knee, a rare display of ease amid the tension. Graves paced nearby, arms crossed, his silence louder than any rebuke. The platoon waited, boots shifting on concrete still warm from the night, the sun climbing to bake the uncertainty into something tangible. "Got it!" one tech called finally, wiping sweat from his brow. "Loose fitting on the return line. Minor seep, but under load. Could have blown the hydraulics mid-lift. Rotor failure probable." The words landed heavy, echoing off the hangar walls. Graves' expression shifted, surprise flickering before hardening into resolve. He turned to Hale, the lines around his eyes softening just a fraction. "Good call, petty officer. Saved us a bird, and worse." Hale saluted, crisp and unyielding, Rex rising to sit tall at his side. "Just doing my job, Master Chief." Rex did the detecting. But inside, the relief warred with a deeper unease. This wasn't just a sim glitch. It exposed cracks in the routine, the kind that command buried under readiness metrics. Questions would follow: who missed the fitting? Why rely on a dog over standard checks? Hale's eval might shine, but it could tag him as the instigator, the one who halted the op on instinct alone. The team reloaded gear as the mechanics towed the Seahawk to the hangar, rotors stilled like a fallen sentinel. Graves clapped Hale on the shoulder as they walked back, brief, professional contact that carried weight. "Debrief at 1400, you'll walk us through it." The platoon fell in behind, murmurs turning to quiet respect, but Hale caught the undercurrent, envy perhaps, or wariness. Rex's refusal had elevated them both, but in the SEAL world, elevation meant targets on your back. By midday, the base buzzed with the incident, radio chatter from ops control filtering through the chow hall, where Hale shared a ration with Rex under the table. The dog's ears twitched at every door swing, but he ate steadily, oblivious to the ripples. Hale scratched behind his ears, the fur warm and damp. "You knew, didn't you, boy?" Loyalty like that didn't question orders. It transcended them. Yet as the afternoon heat built, Hale wondered if he'd just stepped into a test of his own, proving the chain's limits, one defiant paw at a time. The debrief loomed, a formal reckoning in the briefing room's fluorescent glare, where words would be weighed like ammo loads. Graves would lead, command watching from afar. Hale prepared his report in his head. Facts first, no embellishment. But deep down, he knew this moment with Rex had shifted something irrevocable, a fracture in the order, demanding accountability from the top down. The desert wind picked up outside, carrying the faint whine of another helo spooling up, a reminder that the mission never paused, even as conscience demanded it. The briefing room smelled of stale coffee and polished oak, the kind of scent that clung to every after-action review Hale had ever sat through. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting stark shadows across the long table where the platoon gathered, chairs scraping as operators settled in. Master Chief Graves stood at the head, his tablet open to the incident log, the screen's glow reflecting off his insignia. Hale sat midway down. Rex curled at his feet under the table, the dog's steady breathing a quiet counterpoint to the room's tension. The K-9's presence was protocol for handler reports, but today it felt like an accusation, his copper coat brushing Hale's boot with every subtle shift. Graves cleared his throat, the sound amplified in the close space. Incident at 0800 hours, MH-60 Seahawk Sierra 1. Pre-flight cleared, but boarding halted on K-9 refusal. Maintenance confirms hydraulic fault, loose fitting, potential cascade failure under rotor stress. He paused, eyes sweeping the room, lingering on Hale. Petty Officer Hale, walk us through your actions. Hale stood, posture ramrod straight, his voice measured as he recounted the sequence. Rex's halt, the visual check, the seep confirmed. He kept it procedural, no drama, just timestamps and observations. Dog's alert prompted the secondary inspection. No intent to delay, risk assessment per training doctrine. Rex lifted his head briefly, ears flicking at Hale's tone, then settled again, oblivious to the scrutiny. The platoon listened in silence, a few nods from the veterans who'd run K-9 ops, but Hale caught the side glances, curiosity laced with something sharper, like the edge of a blade testing metal. One operator, Petty Officer Ruiz, leaned forward, his chair creaking. Solid play, Hale, but why didn't the sniffers catch it in pre-check? We pay those techs to spot this crap. Murmurs rippled, the room's air thickening with the unspoken. Maintenance shortcuts, overworked crews, the grind of budget cuts that left birds flying on borrowed time. Graves held up a hand, silencing the undercurrent. That's for command to dissect. Focus. Hale's decision saved the sim and the team, but it raises protocol flags. K-9 overrides aren't standard. They're exceptions requiring justification. His gaze pinned Hale. You hesitated on a direct order to board. Explain the calculus. Hale met it evenly, the weight of the room pressing in. Master Chief, Rex's training includes threat detection beyond visuals, sense, vibrations. Ignoring that could have compromised the op. Duty includes protecting assets, including him. The words hung, simple but loaded. Rex wasn't just gear, he was certified, bonded, a life in the chain. But voicing it felt like cracking the facade of unbreakable routine, where orders flowed down like gravity. The door swung open then, admitting Lieutenant Commander Ellis, the squadron's executive officer, a wiry man in his 40s with a clipboard and a reputation for dissecting reports like intel briefs. He'd been looped in from ops control, his arrival shifting the air to something formal, inevitable. Master Chief, Commander wants a full inquiry. Media's sniffing around, some base rag got wind of a near miss from a mechanic's loose lip. Ellis's eyes flicked to Hale. Petty Officer, your K-9's the hero here, but this could go up the ladder. Photos, logs, witness statements. Expect interviews. The platoon stirred, boots shuffling under the table. Hale nodded, saluting crisply. Understood, sir. Inside, his mind mapped the fallout. Inquiries meant paperwork, evals under microscope. the kind that could stall promotions or tag you as a troublemaker. Rex sensed the shift, pressing his nose against Hale's calf, a warm nudge that grounded him amid the rising tide. As the debrief wrapped, Graves pulled Hale aside in the corridor, the echo of footsteps fading behind them. Fluorescent strips hummed along the ceiling, painting their shadows long against the scuffed linoleum. "You did right, but this isn't clean. Command's twitchy about anything that smells like liability. Ellis will push for a full audit. K-9 protocols, maintenance logs. If it sticks, you're the face." Hale adjusted his cover, the fabric cool against his fingers. "Copy, Master Chief. Rex doesn't lie." Graves almost smiled, a rare twitch at the corner of his mouth, before clapping Hale's shoulder and striding off toward the CO's office. Alone with Rex, Hale knelt in the empty hall, running a hand along the dog's flank. The fur was warm, slightly damp from the morning's exertion, carrying the faint musk of alert and release. "What now, boy?" Rex leaned in, eyes steady, as if the question was rhetorical. Word spread through the base like radio static, whispers in the gym, nods in the mess hall. By evening, as Hale walked Rex through the kennel runs, the desert cooling under a bruised sky, he overheard snippets from support staff. That handler's dog sniffed out a dud rotor, could have iced the whole platoon. Respect mingled with skepticism, the kind that bred quiet alliances and unseen rivals. Hale clipped Rex into his run, the gate latching with a metallic click, and lingered, watching the dog's silhouette against the chain link. Back in his quarters, the hum of the Barracks fan did little to dispel the knot in his gut. He reviewed his log on his tablet, entries crisp, time of alert, actions taken, but the moral snag lingered. Obedience versus the dog's unerring truth. Pushing Rex aboard might have ended in tragedy, a rotor shearing mid-air, bodies scattered across the scrub. Yet halting on instinct challenged the system, exposed its seams. Hale's career hung in that balance, loyalty to the team clashing with the bond that had just proven unbreakable. The next morning brought the first interview. Ellis's office, a cramped space overlooking the tarmac where mechanics swarmed a replacement bird. Hale sat across the desk, Rex at heel, as questions probed. Was the refusal trained response or anomaly? Any prior incidents? Hale answered factually, voice level but felt the undercurrent, defiance reframed as protocol breach. Outside, helicopters thrummed to life, a reminder of the machine grinding on, indifferent to one man's conscience. As the inquiry deepened, Hale sensed the ripple, teammates vouching in quiet asides, Graves defending the call in staff meetings, but higher up, the chain tightened, demanding proof that a dog's nose outweighed signed checklists. Rex, oblivious, patrolled the office perimeter during breaks, his nails clicking softly, sensing tensions humans buried under rank. Hale scratched his ears, the gesture a silent vow. Whatever the reckoning, they'd face it together. The base's rhythm pulsed onward, drills at dawn, the salt wind off the bay. But for Hale, the real test brewed in the quiet hours, where integrity met institutional weight, and one refusal echoed louder than any order. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach. The inquiry room was a windowless box in the admin block, its walls panelled in faded laminate that absorbed sound like a bunker. Hale entered at 0900 sharp, Rex heeling close, the dog's tags jingling softly against the concrete floor. The air carried the faint tang of printer ink and recycled chill from the vents, a stark contrast to the morning's coastal fog rolling in off the bay. Lieutenant Commander Ellis sat behind a metal desk stacked with folders, his uniform crisp, sleeves rolled to the elbows revealing forearms corded from years of PT. Flanking him were two investigators from Naval Criminal Investigative Service, NCIS agents in plain polos and slacks, notebooks open, expressions neutral as polished brass. "Petty Officer Hale," Ellis began, gesturing to the chair opposite. Have a seat. Rex stays. The dog settled at Hale's feet, nose twitching at the unfamiliar scents. Leather from the agent's belts, the subtle chemical bite of highlighters. Hale sat back straight, hands folded on his knees, the weight of his sidearm absent, but its absence a reminder of protocol stripped for this civilian-tinged probe. Ellis leaned forward, tapping a pen against the desk. We've pulled maintenance logs, witness statements, and your K-9 certification packet. The hydraulic fault is confirmed, fitting torque to 80% spec, enough for ground idle, but not sustained lift. Rotor failure projected at 200 feet, exactly over the standby zone. He slid a photo across, the Seahawk's underbelly, circled in red where the seep had gleamed. Your intervention prevented it, but the question is procedure. Why not escalate through chain first? Master Chief Graves' order was to board. Hale's jaw tightened fractionally, the only tell in his composed facade. Sir, the alert was immediate. Rex's training prioritizes threat ID over verbal relay in high-noise environments. Delaying for comms risked exposure. He kept his voice level, eyes on Ellis, recalling the doctrine drilled into every handler. The dog as extension of senses, not subordinate to be second-guessed. Rex shifted, pressing his shoulder against Hale's leg, a warm anchor amid the room's chill scrutiny. Agent Harlan, the senior NCIS man, a broad-shouldered type with a crew cut and a gaze like a targeting laser, leaned in. Walk us through the bond. How calibrated is this instinct? Any history of false positives? His pen scratched notes, the sound grating like sand in a chamber. Hale recounted the metrics: 98% accuracy in explosive detection trials, joint ops where Rex had flagged insurgents by scent alone. No priors on mechanical alerts, but the program's evolution leaned on adaptive responses, dogs evolving beyond scripts, much like operators in the field. The junior agent Patel chimed in, her voice precise. And the defiance angle? Witnesses say Graves ordered compliance. You requested a check instead. Sounds like override. The word hung, laced with implication. Not heroism, but insubordination, the kind that could flag Hale's file for years, stalling quals or rotations. Hale met her eyes steadily. Not override, ma'am. Risk mitigation. Per FM 319, 40 K-9 handlers assess anomalies in real time. The team's safety hinged on that pause. Rex whined softly, low and brief, as if echoing the tension, his ears swiveling toward the door where footsteps echoed down the hall, another team filing past for routine briefings, oblivious to the dissection unfolding here. Ellis nodded, but his expression remained guarded, appreciated. But this isn't isolated. Base paper ran a blurb yesterday. Sealed pup saves the day, and it's picking up steam online. CNN's got a stringer calling ops for comment. Command's concerned about optics, reliance on animals over tech, or worse, questioning maintenance integrity. He slid another printout, a screenshot of a forum thread, anonymous posts speculating on rogue handlers and cover-ups. Hale scanned it. The knot in his chest tightening. Public eyes meant amplified stakes, careers not just bent, but broken under media glare. Outside, the fog lifted, sunlight piercing the narrow window slits to stripe the floor in gold. Rex lifted his head, sniffing the shift in air pressure as a helo spooled up on the tarmac, its rotors slicing the mist with a building whine. Hale felt the parallel. The machine resuming, indifferent while his world narrowed to this room's judgments. Sir, Rex isn't the story. The fault is in the process. Pre-flights missing under load sims. If we ignore that, it's not integrity we lose. It's lives. The agents exchanged glances, Harlan jotting a final note before closing his pad. We'll need Rex for a demo, controlled sniff on a mock-up bird. Tomorrow 0700. Ellis stood, signaling end. Dismissed, petty officer. Keep this tight. No side talks. The skipper's reviewing at 1600. Hale saluted, clipping Rex's lead as they exited into the corridor. The base thrummed with midday activity, operators jogging in formation, their cadence calls echoing off the bulkheads, the distant clang of hangar doors. But the weight followed him, heavier than full kit. In the kennel yard, he unclipped Rex, letting the dog stretch on the dew-kissed grass, paws sinking into the soft earth. The coastal breeze carried salt and eucalyptus, a brief respite from the inquiry's sterile grip. Hale knelt, running fingers through Rex's ruff, feeling the steady pulse beneath. They'll test you tomorrow, boy. Show 'em what you know. Word of the NCIS pull had filtered through the platoon by Chow. Subtle nods in the line, Ruiz sliding an extra protein bar Hale's way without a word. Graves caught him in the gym later, spotting him on bench presses, the bar clanging with each rep. "They're leaning hard," the Master Chief said, voice low under the hum of treadmills. Ellis mentioned media could go tribunal if they spin it as protocol fail. Your call saved asses, but command hates loose ends. Hale racked the bar, sweat beading on his brow, chest heaving in controlled breaths. Understood, Chief. Just facts. But as he toweled off, the moral rift widened, loyalty to the dog clashing with the institution's need for clean narratives. Rex waited outside, silhouetted against the chain link, eyes watchful. The demo loomed, a public stage where instinct would face the system's metrics, and Hale's defense hinged on proving the unbreakable. Evening brought a summons to the CO's office. The captain, a stern figure with 30 years' salt, reviewing prelims by desk lamp. "Hale," he said, not looking up, "this dog's elevated you, but elevation draws fire. If NCIS clears, we push K-9 integration reforms. If not..." The ellipsis hung, heavy as unspent rounds. Hale stood at attention, Rex silent at heel, the room's shadows deepening as night pressed against the windows. Back in quarters, Hale reviewed handler manuals by flashlight. Rex curled on the bunk's edge, his breathing a rhythmic anchor. The base quieted, radios signing off. The last helo's echo fading into the fog-shrouded dark. Tomorrow's test wasn't just for the dog, it was Hale's stand, conscience etched in every command, every refusal to yield. The chain of command bent, but it wouldn't break, not while loyalty like Rex's held firm. Dawn broke grey over Naval Base Coronado, the fog clinging to the tarmac like a shroud, muting the first light to a diffused haze. Hale arrived at the mock-up site at a 6:50, Rex heeling tight to his left, the dog's paws silent on the dew-slick concrete. The area was cordoned off with yellow tape fluttering in the breeze. A decommissioned UH-60 Blackhawk propped on blocks in the center, its rotors stilled and shrouded under canvas. NCIS agents Harlan and Patel waited with a maintenance crew, clipboards in hand, while Lieutenant Commander Ellis oversaw from a folding table laden with sensors and sniff test kits. The air hummed with low anticipation, carrying the sharp scent of hydraulic fluid from the bird's exposed underbelly and the earthy dampness of the coastal ground. Hale saluted as he approached, Rex sitting automatically at the command. "Petty Officer Hale reporting, sir." His voice cut through the quiet, steady, despite the knot low in his gut. Overnight, he'd run simulations in his mind, Rex's responses, the agent's probes, but sleep had come fitful, broken by the base's nocturnal sounds. Distant waves crashing, a sentry's boot heels echoing on patrol. Ellis nodded, gesturing to the Blackhawk. "Standard demo protocol. We've simulated the fault. Loose fitting on the port hydraulic, same specs as Sierra 1. Rex sniffs the undercarriage. You log the alert. No coaching. Agents, sensors on." Harlan activated a handheld detector, its screen flickering to life, while Patel positioned a camera on a tripod, the red light blinking like an unblinking eye. The maintenance tech stepped back, tools at ready, their coveralls stained with the night's prep work. Hale unclipped Rex's lead, signaling the dog forward with a subtle hand flick. Forward scout, low profile. Rex moved with fluid precision, nose low to the ground, weaving toward the Blackhawk's shadow. The fog swirled around his legs, dampening his coat to a deeper bronze, and Hale watched every nuance. The slight hitch in the dog's gait as he neared the gear struts, nostrils flaring wide. 10 paces in, Rex froze, body rigid, a soft huff escaping as he pawed once at the concrete, alert confirmed. Hale noted the timestamp on his wrist recorder, voice calm over the comms. Detection at 0712, visual on port line. The agents converged, Harlan kneeling to verify with his device, a positive for trace fluid, matching the planted seep. Patel jotted furiously, her pen scratching audible in the hush. Time to alert, under 20 seconds, impressive calibration. But her tone held a clinical edge, as if dissecting a machine rather than a partner. Rex held position, eyes locked on the fault, until Hale's recall whistle brought him trotting back, tail low but steady. Ellis crossed his arms, the fabric of his jacket whispering against itself. Solid run. But let's stress it. Add rotor spin sim, noise overlay. The techs fired up auxiliary fans, mimicking prop wash, with a building roar that whipped the fog into eddies, scattering droplets across Hale's face. Rex tensed at the sound, ears pinning back, but Hale's steady hand on his harness grounded him. Second pass. The dog circled wider this time, navigating the simulated turbulence, and alerted again, faster, more insistent, a low rumble in his throat cutting through the din. Harlan straightened, wiping fog from his glasses. No false negatives. This validates the initial refusal. Yet, as they rapped, Ellis pulled Hale aside, voice pitched low under the fan's dying whine. Command's got the prelims, skippers pushing for expansion, K-9 audits across squadrons, but NCIS wants your full-op history, any unreported alerts. The implication lingered. Dig deep enough, and every handler's judgment could unravel. Hale met his gaze, the chill seeping through his jacket. All logged per doctrine, sir. Rex's record speaks. But inside, the pressure built like over-torqued hydraulics, loyalty to the program clashing with the system's demand for flawless obedience. Rex pressed against his leg, warm through the damp fabric, sensing the unspoken strain. By 0900, the demo wrapped, but the ripples spread. In the ops center, Hale caught snippets over coffee, platoon mates discussing the footage Patel had shared on a secure drive, nods of approval mingling with wary glances. Ruiz clapped his shoulder in the corridor, voice gruff. Dog's a legend now, but watch your six. Higher-ups don't like when the chain skips a link. The base stirred to full rhythm, formations marching, the crackle of radios issuing morning briefs. Helicopters lifting off with clean rotors into the lifting fog. Mid-morning brought the media twist. Ellis summoned Hale to his office, the door clicking shut behind them as Rex settled in the corner, nose working the air, stale briefing paper, the faint ozone of electronics. A laptop screen glowed with emails, CNN inquiries, a local reporter citing anonymous sources on the near miss. It's out, Ellis said, rubbing his temple. Base PR's spinning it as routine maintenance win, but the dog's the hook. Command wants you prepped for a statement. No details, just team effort. Hale stood at ease, but his mind raced. Public reckoning meant exposure. The quiet bond with Rex thrust under spotlights that could glorify or vilify. Understood, sir. But if it's reform thereafter, highlight the protocols. K-9 integration needs budget, not just praise. Ellis's eyes sharpened, a flicker of respect amid the caution. Careful, petty officer, you're walking a line here. Lunch in the mess hall amplified the buzz, trays clattering, voices hushed over MREs as operators replayed the demo on phones under the table. Graves joined Hale's table, tray in hand, the steam from his stew rising like battlefield smoke. NCIS cleared the fault as human error. Tech rushed the talk, but they're auditing the whole hangar crew. He forked a bite, chewing methodically. Your stand's forcing it. Good, but it'll cost. Reassigns, maybe yours if they need a scapegoat. Hale nodded, scratching Rex's ear under the table, the dog's fur drying to its usual sheen. Costs already in, Chief. Rex doesn't board threats. The words carried quiet defiance, the moral core hardening. Duty wasn't blind compliance, but the courage to pause when the system faltered. Afternoon drills tested the tension. Hale leading a perimeter sweep with the platoon, Rex scouting ahead through scrub-brush heavy with salt air. The dog's alerts came crisp, no hesitation, but Hale felt the eyes on him. Teammates respecting the save, yet weighing the disruption. A radio call from Ops interrupted. Hale, CO's office, 1600. Bring the K-9. The captain's office overlooked the bay, windows framing the endless blue where seals barked faintly on the rocks below. Captain Harlan, namesake to the agent, but no relation, sat behind a broad desk. Photos of deployments lining the walls in shadowed frames. Rex heeled precisely, the room's polished floors reflecting his stance. Petty officer, the CO began, voice gravelly from years of commands. Your actions prevented a catastrophe, but this incident exposes gaps. Maintenance K-9 protocols. I've greenlit a task force. You and Graves co-lead integrate K-9 detection into pre-flights. Hale saluted, surprise flickering before resolve. Honored, sir. But the captain's gaze held steady. It's not optional. Media's circling, one wrong word, and it turns to scandal. Your integrity's the anchor. Don't let it drag. As Hale exited, the sun slanting low, casting long shadows across the quad, Rex trotted beside him, oblivious to the elevation. The base wound down, flags lowering with crisp snaps, the hum of evening PT fading into dusk. In the kennel, Hale brushed Rex's coat, the bristles whispering against copper fur, removing the day's grit. We're in it now, boy, he murmured, the dog's head tilting in that knowing way. Night fell heavy, stars pricking the clear sky above the barracks. Hale lay awake, the cot creaking under him. Replaying the day's tests, the demo's success, the CO's charge. Reform beckoned, a legacy born from one refusal, but the path wound through scrutiny, where conscience met command head-on. Rex's soft snores from the foot of the bunk anchored him, a reminder that true loyalty didn't yield to pressure, no matter the rank. Tomorrow's briefings would demand more. Statements, audits, but Hale's resolve solidified, etched in the quiet discipline of the night. The first light of morning filtered through the barracks blinds, painting Hale's quarters in muted stripes of grey and gold. He rose before reveille, the cot springs sighing under his weight as he swung his legs to the floor. Rex stirred immediately, lifting his head from the blanket pile, eyes bright and alert despite the early hour. Hale clipped on the dog's lead, the metal snap echoing in the quiet room, and they stepped out into the crisp coastal air. The base was awakening, distant calls of gulls wheeling over the bay, the low rumble of generators kicking in, boots thudding in formation on the quad. Hale's mind churned with the CO's directive, co-lead the task force, integrate K-9 protocols into pre-flights. It was elevation, but laced with the weight of expectation, a chance to etch reform into the system or watch it grind his career to dust. They made their way to the ops center, Rex's nails clicking rhythmically on the pavement, his coat still carrying the faint salt tang from yesterday's demo. The building loomed squat and utilitarian, its doors hissing open to reveal the hum of fluorescent lights and the chatter of printers spitting out fresh manifests. Master Chief Graves was already there, hunched over a conference table strewn with binders and laptops, his coffee steaming in a chipped mug. He looked up as Hale entered, nodding once, the gesture carrying the unspoken solidarity of shared scrutiny. Morning, Hale. Skipper's brief in 10. Task force starts today. Your input on K-9 integration. Graves slid a folder across. Draft protocols, charts mapping scent detection radii against mechanical checklists. Hale sat, Rex settling at his feet with a soft huff, nose nudging the leg of the table, as if scenting the ink's fresh bite. NCIS wrapped their audit overnight, Graves continued, voice low. Cleared the hangar crew, overtime fatigue, no malice. But the media's not letting go. PR's scheduling your statement at 1100. Keep it tight. Facts, team effort, no heroics. Hale flipped through the pages, his gloved finger tracing a flowchart. K-9 alerts flagged as mandatory pauses, handlers empowered to halt without immediate escalation. It was progress, born from Rex's refusal, but fragile, dependent on buy-in from higher echelons wary of upending routines. This could save ops across the fleet, Hale said, meeting Graves' eyes. The Master Chief's gaze held steady, lines etched deeper from years of balancing chain and conscience. It will, if we sell it right. But you're the face now, dog and all. The briefing room filled quickly, chairs scraping as Lieutenant Commander Ellis and a half-dozen squadron leads filed in, clipboards under arms, the air thickening with the scent of aftershave and machine oil from the tarmac. Captain Harlan entered last, his presence commanding silence, the door clicking shut like a chambered round. He stood at the head, projector humming to life behind him, casting blueprints of the Seahawk across the wall. Gentlemen, and the K-9, he acknowledged Rex with a nod, the dog's ears perking. This incident isn't a footnote, it's a pivot. Hale's intervention exposed vulnerabilities. We're forming a task force to embed K-9 detection in aviation preps. Petty Officer Hale and Master Chief Graves lead. Input due by end of week. Murmurs rippled, nods from the K-9 advocates, furrowed brows from the traditionalists. One lieutenant, a wiry aviator named Torres, leaned forward. Sir, with respect, dogs are ground assets. What about false alerts derailing timelines? We've got deployment windows measured in minutes. Hale felt the probe like a pat-down, procedural but probing for weakness. He stood, voice even. Sir, Rex's hit rate is 98% in controlled tests. We've run the numbers. One pause prevents cascade failures. It's not about replacing tech, it's layering it with instinct. Rex shifted under the table, his warm flank pressing against Hale's boot, a subtle reminder of the bond that had sparked this all. Harlan raised a hand, quelling debate. Metrics will prove it. Hale, prep that statement. Media's framing this as Seal Dog's sixth sense. Lean into the discipline, not the drama. The captain's eyes lingered on Hale, a mix of appraisal and caution, before dismissing them. As the room emptied, Graves clapped Hale's shoulder, the contact brief but firm. You held the line, now walk it. By 1100, Hale stood in the PR suite, a converted briefing space with windows overlooking the hangar where mechanics swarmed a fresh bird, their tools clanging like distant percussion. Rex sat rigid beside a podium, harness gleaming under the lights, while a base photographer adjusted his lens, the shutter clicking softly. Ellis coached from the side. Short, factual. Acknowledge the team. A local reporter from the San Diego Union Tribune waited off-camera, recorder poised, her notebook crisp white against the room's olive-drab walls. National feeds loomed in the background, CNN's stringer patched in via video link, the screen flickering with a neutral backdrop. Hale stepped to the mic, the stand cool under his fingers, heart steady from years of ops briefs. On the morning of the 15th, during a routine Hilo exfil simulation, my K-9 partner Rex alerted to an anomaly in the aircraft. A secondary inspection confirmed a hydraulic fault, preventing potential failure. This was a team effort, maintenance, crew, chain of command acting on protocol. He paused, glancing down at Rex, whose eyes scanned the room unflinchingly. K-9 units like Rex are trained extensions of our senses, ensuring mission safety. We're committed to refining those protocols for the fleet. Questions followed, sharp but contained, the reporter probing for heroics, the CNN feed asking about broader reforms. Hale parried with restraint. "Ongoing reviews, sir, ma'am." His responses clipped, mission-focused. Rex remained statue still, but Hale caught the subtle twitch of his ear toward the camera's hum, sensing the artificial tension. As the session wrapped, Ellis pulled him aside in the corridor, the echo of footsteps amplifying their words. "Clean delivery, but the story's viral now. Hashtag #SealDogSave. Commands monitoring, one misstep, and it twists." The afternoon blurred into task force sessions. Hale and Graves mapping integration timelines in a stuffy conference room, whiteboards filling with acronyms and flowcharts. Rex patrolled the perimeter during breaks, his nose working the vents, oblivious to the stakes. Teammates filtered in and out, Ruiz dropping off printouts with a thumbs up, others offering quiet endorsements that built like reinforcements. But Hale sensed the undercurrents. Whispers in the halls about Hale's push, the way some salutes lingered a beat too long, respect tinged with envy. Evening brought a quiet walk along the base perimeter, the sun dipping low to gild the chain-link fences, casting Rex's shadow long across the scrub. The dog's pace matched Hale's stride, effortless, the bond a silent thread weaving through the day's pressures. Hale scratched behind Rex's ears, feeling the warmth of fur against his palm, the steady pulse beneath. "You started this, boy. Now it's on us to finish right." Rex leaned in, a soft huff his reply, as the first stars pricked the twilight sky. Back in quarters, Hale reviewed the day's footage on his tablet, the statement replaying in crisp audio, Rex's image frozen mid-alert. The reform was taking shape. Pilots briefed on K-9 flags, hangar crews adding scent checks to rotations. But the personal cost lingered. Evals pending, rotations possibly deferred. Yet in the quiet, with Rex's breathing a rhythmic anchor, Hale felt the shift toward redemption. One defiance had rippled outward, challenging the rigid order, forging a legacy of conscience over blind duty. The base lights flickered on outside, a constellation of discipline as Hale settled in, resolve hardening like tempered steel. If this story already has your respect, hit the like button. It helps the story of Marcus Hale reach those who still believe in honor. Weeks had passed since Rex's refusal etched itself into the base's collective memory. The incident no longer a whisper in the corridors, but a cornerstone of procedural evolution. Hale moved through the mornings with a quiet rhythm, his boots tracing familiar paths from Barracks to the expanded K-9 integration center, a newly repurposed hangar wing where the hum of ventilation fans mingled with the soft click of paws on reinforced flooring. The air carried the mingled scents of fresh sealant, kibble, and the faint metallic tang of aircraft parts used in training mock-ups. Rex trotted at his heel, harness adjusted for the day's drills, his coat gleaming under the overhead lights that buzzed like distant rotors. The task force had grown, pulling in handlers from across the West Coast squadrons. Their meetings a steady cadence of briefings and field tests. Graves led the charge, his voice steady as he outlined revisions to FM 319. 40, the military police manual now threaded with K-9 protocols. "Handlers assess in real time," he stated in one session, projector casting flowcharts across the wall, the blue glow reflecting off ranks of attentive faces. "Alert triggers mandatory pause. No escalations without verification. We've logged 15 sim runs, 0 false halts, 3 faults caught early." Hale contributed from the side, detailing Rex's metrics, his words precise, backed by data pads showing scent detection curves that outpaced visual scans by 40%. The reforms rippled outward. Hangar crews incorporated K-9 walks into pre-flights. Dogs like Rex weaving under fuselages while techs double-checked fittings, their tools pausing at K-9 alerts. In the first fleet-wide audit, 4 birds flagged, minor seeps, overlooked under pressure, averting what could have been mid-air incidents. Command issued a directive, all aviation units to certify handlers, budgets reallocated for expanded training. Hale's name surfaced in memos, not as instigator but architect. His eval upgraded to exemplary, the CO's endorsement, a quiet seal of validation. Yet the transformation ran deeper than paper trails. Hale mentored rookies now, his sessions in the kennel yard drawing a semicircle of young operators, their boots planted in the soft sand as Rex demonstrated a basic threat sniff. "Watch the posture," Hale instructed, voice low over the coastal breeze that tugged at collars and carried the salt spray from the bay. "Tail drop, nostrils flare, that's your cue. Not every alert's explosive, could be mechanical, human error. Trust the bond, but log it clean." One trainee, a fresh-faced petty officer with a Belgian Malinois pup at his side, nodded, mimicking the hand signal. Rex sat patient, eyes scanning the group. His presence, a living testament to the loyalty that had bent the chain without breaking it. Publicly, the story had settled into legend, the media frenzy cooling to respectful profiles in military journals. Headlines like K-9 Command, How Instinct Reinforces Protocol. Hale's statement had gone viral in controlled channels, shared in briefings as a case study. The video of Rex's demo replayed in classrooms at the Naval Special Warfare Center. No scandals emerged. Instead, quiet reform. NCIS audits streamlined, emphasizing fatigue protocols for maintenance teams. Graves pulled Hale aside after one all-hands, the sun low over the tarmac, casting their shadows long across the warming concrete. "You sparked this," the Master Chief said. His grip firm on Hale's shoulder, the rare praise weighted like a commendation. "Not just for us, for the whole damn fleet." Hale felt the shift in himself, the moral tension that had knotted his gut easing into resolve. Where once he'd buried doubts under orders, now he voiced them in measured terms, conscience woven into duty. Rex had become more than partner, symbol of unyielding truth. His refusal a pivot that humanized the rigid hierarchy. In quiet moments, walking the perimeter at dusk, the dog's steady gait beside him, Hale reflected on the cost. The scrutiny that had tested every bond, from platoon mates' nods to command's watchful eyes. But integrity's price was redemption's foundation, careers steadied, lives preserved. The culmination came at a base ceremony, the quad transformed under a clear sky, flags snapping in the offshore wind. Operators stood in ranks, uniforms pressed, the air crisp with the scent of polished brass and ocean brine. Captain Harlan took the podium, his voice carrying over the assembly. "Today we honor not just a save, but a standard. Petty Officer Hale and K-9 Rex exemplify the moral courage that defines us, choosing right over routine, loyalty over haste." A plaque was unveiled. In recognition of adaptive excellence, etched with Rex's paw print in bronze, mounted in the ops center for all to see. Hale stood front and center, Rex at heel, the weight of eyes upon them lighter now, transformed into respect. No trembling hands or lingering salutes, just the quiet pride of a system learning, one protocol at a time. As the platoon dispersed, murmurs of approval trailing like radio static, Hale knelt to Rex, fingers tracing the harness. "We did it, boy." The dog's eyes met his, steady and knowing, the bond unbreakable. In the weeks that followed, Hale's rotation resumed, insertions planned with enhanced briefs, K-9 roles expanded. The desert winds still swirled across tarmacs, helicopters hummed at dawn, but the order felt fortified, conscience embedded in every check. Hale had become the symbol, a handler whose stand rippled through ranks, proving that true strength lay in the pause, the defiance born of trust. The institution, once rigid, now bent toward justice, legacies forged in silence and discipline, Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage, and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of the SEAL's dog wouldn't board the helicopter. Minutes later, the rotor failed, exactly where he stood. See you in the next one.